My grandson called me late last night. "Grandma, I'm at the police station. My stepmother hit me, but she's saying I attacked her. My dad doesn't believe me." When I arrived at the police station, the officer turned pale and muttered, "I'm sorry, Commander. I didn't know." It was 2:47 in the morning when my phone shattered the silence of my house in Baltimore's Park Heights neighborhood. At that hour, no call ever brings good news. I reached through the darkness, fumbling on the nightstand until my fingers found my cell phone. The screen lit up my face with that cold glare that snaps you back to reality faster than smelling salts. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing our family from all around the world come together. Thank you for being here and sharing your time with us. It was Javon, my grandson, the only one who still called me Grandma without anyone making him feel like he had to. "Javon, baby, what happened?" My voice came out hoarse from sleep, but my heart was already pounding like it knew something was terribly wrong. What I heard from the other side froze my blood. "Grandma." His voice trembled, broken by sobs. "I'm at the police station. Brielle, she hit me with a candlestick. My eyebrow is bleeding bad. But she's saying I attacked her, that I pushed her down the stairs. My dad believes her, Grandma. He doesn't believe me." I felt like the air was being sucked out of my lungs. I sat barefoot on the cold hardwood floor beside my bed. Javon's words ricocheted through my mind like stray bullets. Brielle, my son's wife. The woman who, in 5 years, had accomplished what I thought was impossible, turning Darius into a stranger. A man who looked like my son but acted like someone I'd never raised. "Calm down, baby. Which station are you at?" "The one on Greenmount Avenue, Grandma. I'm scared. There's an officer who said if a responsible adult doesn't come, they're going to take me to—" "Don't say another word." I interrupted him, standing up and searching for my clothes with trembling hands. "I'm on my way. Don't talk to anyone until I get there. You understand me?" "Yes, Grandma." She hung up and I just stood there in the middle of my room, holding the phone like it was the only real thing in that moment. My reflection in the wardrobe mirror stared back at me, a 68-year-old woman with disheveled gray locks and deep circles under her eyes. But I didn't see a frightened old woman. I saw Detective Monique Lawson, the same woman who'd worked 35 years with the Baltimore Police Department, the same woman who'd interrogated killers, solved impossible cases, faced down situations that would make most people crumble. And for the first time in 8 years since my retirement, I felt that woman wake up again. I dressed in less than 5 minutes, black pants, a gray sweater, and my comfortable boots. I grabbed my purse and almost instinctively opened my dresser drawer. There it was, my expired detective's badge. I slipped it into my back pocket. Didn't know if it would do me any good, but something told me I was going to need it that night. When I stepped outside, the city was wrapped in that thick silence that only exists in the early morning hours. I called an Uber from my phone. The driver, a brother in his 50s, looked at me in the rearview mirror as I climbed in. "Where to, ma'am?" "The precinct on Greenmount Avenue, and hurry, please, it's an emergency." He nodded and accelerated. I stared out the window, not really seeing anything, just thinking about Javon, about his broken voice, about the words he'd said to me. My dad doesn't believe me. Darius, my son. The boy I'd raised alone after his father walked out when he was only 3 years old. The man I'd given everything to, education, values, unconditional love. The same man who'd stopped visiting me 5 years ago, who'd stopped calling, who'd erased me from his life like I'd never existed. And all because of her, because of Brielle. He met her at the Horseshoe Casino where she worked as a dealer. He'd just been widowed, devastated by the death of his first wife, Javon's mother, Ayanna. Brielle appeared like some kind of guardian angel, young, light-skinned, with long Brazilian hair, attentive, too perfect. I saw it from the start. I saw the way she looked at him, not with love, but with calculation, like someone evaluating an investment opportunity. But Darius was blind. He needed to fill that void his wife's death had left, and Brielle knew exactly how to fill it. Little by little, she started planting seeds of doubt in his mind. Your mother is so controlling, baby. She never lets you make your own decisions. She's always judging you. At first, Darius defended me, but drops of poison, when they fall one after another, they end up contaminating even the purest water. The visits became less frequent. The calls got shorter. Birthdays were forgotten. Christmases were celebrated with made-up excuses. Until one day, he simply stopped reaching out. The only one who kept coming was Javon. On the weekends, when he had to stay with his father, he'd find a way to escape for a few hours to visit me. He'd bring me drawings from school, tell me about his problems, hug me like in those arms he found the refuge he no longer had in his own home. And I, like the fool I was, thought things would eventually get better, that Darius would snap out of it. That time would bring him back to his senses. How wrong I was. The Uber stopped in front of the precinct, a 2-story brick building with the lights blazing. I paid the driver and got out. My legs were trembling, but not from fear, from restrained fury. I walked through the main door. The officer on duty, a young brother about 25, looked up from his desk. "Good evening, ma'am. How can I help you?" "I'm here for Javon Lawson, my grandson. He called me about half an hour ago." The officer checked a sheet in front of him. "Oh, yes, the domestic violence case. You're his grandmother?" "Monique Lawson." Something changed in his face when he heard my name. He turned slightly pale, looked at me more intently, like he was trying to remember something. "Lawson? Like Detective Lawson?" I took my expired badge out of my pocket and placed it on the desk. The officer picked it up, examined it, and his expression changed completely. He stood up immediately. "Good Lord, Detective. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were related to the boy. My apologies, ma'am." "Where is my grandson?" My voice came out firm, without hesitation. The voice I'd used hundreds of times to interrogate, to give orders, to make people understand I wasn't playing games. "In the waiting room with his parents and, well, with the complainant. Detective Harris is handling the case." Harris. That name made me pause for a second. Terrence Harris had been one of my partners years ago, a good man, fair, intelligent. "Take me to him." The officer nodded and led me down a corridor I knew like the back of my hand. I'd walked these same floors hundreds of times during my career. Every corner, every door, every crack in the wall brought back memories of a life I thought I'd left behind. But that night, I understood something. You never stop being who you were. You just pretend you've forgotten. We arrived at the waiting room, and there, in that cold space illuminated by fluorescent lights, I saw the scene that would change everything. Javon was sitting in a plastic chair with his right eyebrow clumsily bandaged with gauze. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. When he saw me, he jumped up. "Grandma!" He ran toward me and hugged my waist like when he was little. I felt his body trembling against mine. I stroked his hair and whispered, "I'm here now, baby. I'm here now." But my gaze had already found the other 2 characters in that scene. Darius was standing against the wall, arms crossed, jaw tense. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Shame, anger, guilt. And beside him, sitting with her legs crossed and a perfectly rehearsed victim's expression, was Brielle. She was wearing a white silk robe, because of course she was. Her makeup was smudged just enough to look distressed, but not enough to look ugly. There was a small bruise on her forearm that looked suspiciously fresh. "Well, well," she said when she saw me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Look who decided to show up, the grandmother who thinks she knows everything." I didn't respond. I just looked at her the way I'd looked at hundreds of criminals, with that cold, analytical gaze that makes people squirm. "Javon, come sit down, baby. Let me see that cut." I sat him back down and carefully examined the wound above his eyebrow. It was deep, deep enough to need stitches. The gauze was already soaked with blood. Darius, I said without looking at him, your son needs to go to the hospital. This needs stitches. He's fine, Ma. Darius's voice was flat, distant. The paramedics already looked at it. The paramedics put a Band-Aid on it. This needs proper medical attention. I said he's fine. That's when I looked up at him, really looked at him. And what I saw broke my heart. This wasn't my son anymore. This was a puppet, a man whose strings were being pulled by the woman sitting next to him. What happened here tonight, Darius? Before he could answer, Brielle jumped in. What happened is that your precious grandson attacked me. He pushed me down the stairs because I asked him to clean his room. I could have died. That's a lie, Javon shouted, tears streaming down his face. I never touched her. She's been hitting me for months and Dad won't believe me. She hit me tonight with the candlestick because I said I wanted to come live with you, Grandma. He's delusional, Brielle said, shaking her head. He's been acting out ever since his mother died. He needs professional help. Don't bring Ayana's name into this, I thought, but I kept my voice steady. Where's the candlestick? What? Brielle blinked. The candlestick he allegedly used to injure you. Where is it? It's at the house. No, baby. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. If you were assaulted with a weapon, the police would have collected it as evidence. So where is it? She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked at Darius for help. But before he could speak, the door opened. A tall black man in his early 50s walked in, wearing plain clothes and a detective's badge on his belt. His eyes landed on me and widened. Detective Lawson? Is that really you? Terrence Harris. I stood up and shook his hand. It's been a long time. Too long. What are you doing here? Then his eyes moved to Javon. Wait, is this your grandson? It is. Something shifted in his expression. He glanced at Brielle, then at Darius, then back at me. Can we talk? Privately? We stepped out into the hallway. Terrence closed the door behind us and let out a long breath. Detective, I gotta be straight with you. Something doesn't sit right with this case. Talk to me. The wife, Brielle, called 911 screaming that the boy pushed her down the stairs. But when we got there, she had no injuries consistent with a fall, no scrapes, no bruises on her knees or elbows, nothing. Just this small bruise on her forearm that looked more like someone grabbed her, not pushed her. And Javon had blood running down his face from that cut above his eye. When I asked him what happened, he said she hit him with a candlestick. But when I asked to see the candlestick, she couldn't produce it. Said she threw it away in the trash already. In the trash? After being assaulted with it? That's what I said. Doesn't make sense. And here's the thing. I ran her background. Brielle Martinez. Originally from Miami. She's got a sealed juvenile record, but I got a buddy down in Florida who gave me the basics. Assault, theft, fraud. She was emancipated at 16. My jaw clenched. And my son doesn't know any of this. I don't think so. I tried to talk to him, but every time I ask a question, she answers for him. It's like he's afraid to speak. Because he is afraid. She's been isolating him for 5 years, Terrence, cutting him off from family, from friends, from anyone who might see through her act. Terrence ran a hand over his face. Look, I don't have enough to charge the boy with anything. The evidence doesn't support her story. But I also don't have enough to charge her either. It's he said, she said, and without witnesses or physical evidence. What if I told you there's a pattern, that this isn't the first time she's done this to Javon? You have proof? Not yet, but I will. Terrence studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. You always were the best at digging up the truth. If anyone can figure this out, it's you. But, detective, be careful. This woman, she's dangerous. I can see it in her eyes. I've dealt with worse. I know you have. Just watch yourself. We went back into the waiting room. Brielle was whispering something to Darius, her hand on his arm. Her nails painted blood red. When she saw us, she straightened up and put on that victim mask again. So, she demanded, Are you going to arrest him or not?" "We're not arresting anyone tonight," Terrence said firmly. "There's insufficient evidence to support your claim, Mrs. Lawson." "Insufficient evidence? He attacked me. No visible injuries consistent with your statement. No weapon recovered. No witnesses. I'm closing this complaint as unfounded." Brielle's face went from shock to furious in half a second. "This is ridiculous. You're only doing this because she used to be a cop." "I'm doing this because I follow the evidence, ma'am, and the evidence doesn't support your story." "Darius, are you going to let them talk to me like this?" Darius finally spoke, his voice tired. "Let's just go home." "Brielle?" "But," I said, "let's go." For a moment, I saw something flash in Brielle's eyes, something cold and calculating. She was already planning her next move. I could see it. She stood up, smoothed her robe, and walked past me. As she did, she leaned in close enough that only I could hear. "This isn't over, old woman. He's my husband now. Javon is my son now, and there's nothing you can do about it." I didn't flinch, didn't blink. Just watched her walk out with my son following behind her like a shadow. When they were gone, Javon finally broke down. He buried his face in my chest and sobbed. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. "I can't go back there, Grandma. I can't. She's going to kill me one day. I know she is." I held him tight, my own eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. "Not yet. Not here." "You're not going back there, baby. Not tonight. Not ever if I can help it." "But Dad, your daddy is lost right now, but I'm not. And I promise you, on your mother's memory, I'm going to fix this." Terrence cleared his throat. "Detective Lawson, technically, he should go home with his father. But given the circumstances and given that there's been an allegation of abuse, if you're willing to take custody of him temporarily, I can put it in my report that it's in the child's best interest. I'm willing. Then he's all yours. But you'll need to file for emergency custody with family court first thing Monday morning. This is just temporary until then." "I understand. Thank you, Terrence." He shook my hand again. "Take care of that boy. He's lucky to have you." After all the paperwork was done, I took Javon out to the Uber I'd called. It was almost 5 in the morning. The sky was starting to lighten with that gray pre-dawn glow. We rode in silence for a while. Then Javon spoke, his voice small. "Grandma, do you think Dad will ever love me again?" My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. "Baby, your daddy never stopped loving you. He's just confused right now. Brielle has him twisted up in her lies. But love doesn't just disappear. It's still there, buried under all that mess. We just have to dig it out." "How?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. That's what grandmas do." He leaned his head on my shoulder, and within minutes, he was asleep, exhausted from the trauma of the night. I looked out the window at the city passing by, my city, the place I'd protected for 35 years. And I made a decision right then and there. I was coming out of retirement. When we got back to my house, I got Javon settled in the guest room, the same room Darius used to sleep in when he was a boy. I tucked him in like I used to do all those years ago. "Grandma?" "Yes, baby. I love you." "I love you too, Javon, more than you'll ever know. Now get some rest." I closed the door softly and went to my own room, but I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled out my old laptop and started doing what I did best: research. I started with Brielle Martinez. Terrence said she had a sealed juvenile record, but there were other ways to find information. I searched social media, public records, news articles, and what I found made my blood run cold. Brielle had been married twice before Darius. Her first husband, a man named Roberto Castillo, had died in a suspicious house fire. The investigation ruled it accidental, but the insurance payout had been substantial. Her second husband, James Peterson, had filed a restraining order against her before their divorce, citing emotional and physical abuse. But the case was dropped when James suddenly decided not to testify. I dug deeper, Found old Facebook posts from her time in Miami, pictures of her at parties, at casinos, always surrounded by older men with money, comments from people who'd known her. "Be careful with that one," someone had written. "She's poison." Another comment. "Gold digger supreme, drained my cousin dry and left him broke." I kept searching until the sun came up, until my eyes burned from staring at the screen, until I had a file folder full of information that painted a very clear picture. Brielle Martinez was a professional con artist. She targeted vulnerable men with money, isolated them from their families, drained their bank accounts, and moved on to the next target. Sometimes she got violent when things didn't go her way, and now she had her claws in my son. Around 8 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Darius. "Ma, you need to bring Javon home, now." His voice was cold, emotionless. Brielle was coaching him. I could hear her in the background. "No." "What do you mean, no? He's my son." "He's also a child who was injured in your home under your watch. I'm filing for emergency custody this morning." "You can't do that." "Watch me." "Ma, please, don't do this. Brielle was just disciplining him. Kids today need structure. You're too soft on him." "Disciplining him? Darius, she hit him hard enough to split his eyebrow open. That's not discipline. That's abuse." "You're exaggerating." "Am I? Then why did the detective close her complaint as unfounded? Why couldn't she produce the weapon she claimed Javon used? Why does she have no injuries from being pushed down the stairs?" Silence. "Darius, baby, listen to me. I know you're hurting. I know you miss Ayanna, but Brielle is not the answer to that pain. She's making it worse. You don't know her like I do." "You're right, I don't. But I know people. I spent 35 years studying liars and manipulators and abusers. And son, she checks every single box." "I can't do this right now." His voice cracked. Just bring him home." "I can't do that." "Then I'll call the police." "Go ahead. Tell them you want your son back so your wife can finish what she started. See how that works out for you." He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, my hands shaking. That was my son, my baby boy, and I just had to treat him like a suspect. But I couldn't let guilt cloud my judgment. Javon's safety came first. I made coffee. Strong, black, the way I used to drink it during all-night stakeouts. Then I called my lawyer, Patricia Williams. We'd worked together on dozens of cases over the years. If anyone could help me navigate this, it was her. "Patricia, it's Monique. I need your help." "Monique, it's been years. What's going on?" I told her everything. About Brielle, about Javon, about the police station, about Darius. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she let out a low whistle. "Girl, you've got yourself a situation, but I can help. We'll file for emergency custody based on imminent danger. With your background and the police report from last night, we've got a solid case. But you need to understand, this is going to get ugly. If Brielle is who you think she is, she's not going to let go without a fight." "I'm ready for a fight." "I know you are. That's what I'm worried about. Monique, you need to play this smart. No confrontations, no showing up at their house, everything by the book. Can you do that?" I thought about it, about the rage burning in my chest, about how much I wanted to drive over to Darius's house and drag him out of there by his ear like I used to do when he was a boy. But that wouldn't help Javon. I can do that. Good. I'll have the paperwork ready by noon. We'll file today and hopefully get a hearing by end of week. In the meantime, keep Javon close and document everything. Every phone call, every text, every interaction. We'll need it. Thank you, Patricia. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. She was right about that. Over the next few days, things escalated quickly. Darius called multiple times, each call more desperate than the last. Brielle had convinced him that I was trying to steal his son away, that I was a bitter old woman who couldn't stand to see him happy, that Javon was lying because I'd coached him. "Ma, please," he begged during one call. Just bring him home and we'll forget this ever happened. Brielle promised she'll never lay a hand on him again. A promise from her means nothing, Darius. She needs to stay away from Javon. He's terrified of her. He's not terrified. He's just being manipulated by you. Listen to yourself. Do you hear how she's got you turned around? This is exactly what she does. She isolates you from everyone who cares about you, makes you think we're the enemy, and then she does whatever she wants. You're paranoid. No, baby. I'm experienced. There's a difference. He hung up again. But then something changed. I started getting text messages from Darius's phone, but they weren't from Darius. They were from Brielle. You think you're so smart, detective? You're nothing but a washed-up old woman living in the past. Javon belongs with us. He's my son now. You're just the grandmother. You have no rights. I'll make sure you never see Darius or Javon again. I'll destroy you the same way I'm going to destroy that lying little brat. I saved every message, forwarded them all to Patricia. This is gold, she said when I called her. She's threatening a minor. Keep her talking. So I did. I responded to her messages, kept my tone neutral and professional, and let her dig her own grave with every venomous text she sent. Meanwhile, Javon was slowly starting to heal. The cut above his eyebrow was stitching up nicely. The fear in his eyes was fading, replaced by something that looked like hope. We fell into a routine. I'd make breakfast, pancakes, grits, turkey bacon, and we'd eat together at the small kitchen table. He'd tell me about what was going on at school, about his friends, about the things he'd been too scared to talk about when he was living with Brielle. She used to lock me in my room, Grandma, for hours. Said I needed to learn respect, and she'd take my phone so I couldn't call anyone. Did your dad know? I tried to tell him, but she'd always twist it around, make it seem like I was being dramatic or that I'd done something to deserve it. My hands clenched into fists, but I kept my voice calm. You didn't deserve any of that, baby. None of it was your fault. I know that now, but when you're in it, when someone's telling you every day that you're bad, that you're the problem, you start to believe it. I reached across the table and took his hand. You are not bad. You are not the problem. You are a smart, kind, wonderful young man who deserves to be loved and protected. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. The custody hearing was set for Friday. Patricia had filed all the paperwork, gathered all the evidence, compiled all of Brielle's threatening texts into a neat little package that would be presented to the judge. We've got this, she assured me the night before. The evidence is overwhelming. No judge in their right mind would send that boy back to that house. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Brielle had something up her sleeve. She was too quiet, too calm. I dealt with enough criminals to know that silence usually meant they were planning something. I found out what that something was the morning of the hearing. I was getting Javon ready, made sure he had on his best clothes, rehearsed with him what he might be asked, when my phone rang. It was Terrence. Detective Lawson, we've got a problem. What kind of problem? Brielle filed a counter petition. She's claiming that you're unstable, that you're suffering from dementia, that you're a danger to the child, and she's got a doctor's note to back it up. What? That's insane. I know, but she found some quack doctor who'll say anything for the right price. The hearing just got a lot more complicated. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Of course she did. Of course she found a way to flip this around. Thanks for the heads up, Terrence. No problem. And detective, nail her to the wall. I intend to. The courthouse was in downtown Baltimore, an imposing gray building that I'd walked into countless times to testify in criminal cases. But this time felt different. This time it was personal. Patricia met me outside. Don't worry about the dementia claim. It's bogus and we can prove it. Just stay calm in there and let me do the talking. We walked into the courtroom. It was smaller than I expected, more intimate. The judge, a stern black woman in her 60s, named Judge Freeman, sat behind the bench looking over paperwork. And there, on the other side of the room, sat Darius and Brielle with their lawyer, a slick-looking white man in an expensive suit. Darius wouldn't look at me, but Brielle did. She stared right at me with this little smirk on her face, like she'd already won. We'll see about that, I thought. All rise, the bailiff called. The Honorable Judge Monica Freeman presiding. The hearing began. Patricia laid out our case methodically. The incident at the house, the police report, Javon's injuries, the threatening text messages, Brielle's history of violence and fraud. Then their lawyer stood up. His name was Richard Caldwell, and he was exactly the type of lawyer a woman like Brielle would hire. All charm and no substance. Your Honor, my clients are devastated by these false allegations. Mrs. Brielle Lawson is a loving stepmother who has done everything in her power to create a stable home for young Javon. Unfortunately, the boy has behavioral issues stemming from the tragic loss of his mother. And Mrs. Monique Lawson, while we respect her years of service to the community, is not capable of providing the care this child needs. We have a psychiatric evaluation that shows she's suffering from early-onset dementia and paranoid delusions. He handed a document to the judge. Patricia was on her feet immediately. Your Honor, that evaluation is fraudulent. It was conducted by Dr. Martin Chen, a doctor who's currently under investigation by the Medical Board for falsifying records. We have counter-evidence showing that Mrs. Lawson is in perfect mental health. She handed over her own documents, recent physical exam results, a cognitive test I'd taken just that week, letters from my own doctor. Judge Freeman looked over everything, her expression unreadable. I'd like to hear from the child, she said finally. Javon was called to the stand. He looked so small sitting up there, his hands folded in his lap. But when the judge asked him to tell his story, his voice came out clear and strong. He told her everything, about the locked rooms, about the hits and the threats, about how Brielle had isolated him from his grandmother, from his friends, from anyone who might help him. About the night she hit him with the candlestick because he said he wanted to leave, and then he said something that broke my heart and mended it at the same time. I love my dad. I do. But I can't live with him while she's there, because she's gonna hurt me again, and next time it might be worse. My grandma is the only person who's ever believed me, the only person who's ever protected me. Please don't make me go back there. There wasn't a dry eye in that courtroom. When it was Brielle's turn to testify, she put on a performance. Tears streaming down her face, voice shaking, the whole act. I never meant to hurt him, she sobbed. I was just trying to discipline him. He was so disrespectful, and I didn't know what else to do. I love that boy like he's my own son. But then Patricia did what she did best. She started asking questions. Mrs. Lawson, you claim you love Javon like your own son. Can you tell me his birthday? Brielle hesitated. May 12th? It's June 3rd. What's his favorite subject in school? Math? English. What's the name of his best friend? You don't know, because you don't actually care about Javon at all, do you? He's just an obstacle to you, an obstacle between you and your husband's money. Objection! Their lawyer shouted. Sustained, Judge Freeman said. But the damage was done. Everyone in that room could see Brielle for what she really was. Patricia continued. Let's talk about your background, Mrs. Lawson. You were married twice before Darius, correct? Yes. And your first husband died in a house fire? It was an accident. Was it? Because the fire marshal's report noted several irregularities, and you collected a substantial life insurance payout. Objection, relevance. I'm establishing a pattern, Your Honor. I'll allow it. Continue. Patricia went through everything. The restraining order from her second husband, the sealed juvenile record, the fraud charges that had been dropped, every shady detail I'd uncovered during my research. By the time she was done, Brielle looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Then it was my turn to testify. I walked up to the stand and placed my hand on the Bible, swearing to tell the truth. And that's exactly what I did. I told the judge about my career, about the hundreds of cases I'd worked, about my experience recognizing patterns of abuse and manipulation, about how I'd seen everything Brielle was doing before, the isolation, the gaslighting, the violence, the threats. Your Honor, I've spent my entire adult life protecting people. That's what I did for 35 years. And when I see someone hurting my grandson, when I see my own son being controlled and manipulated, I can't just sit back and do nothing. Javon is not safe in that house, not while she's there. Their lawyer tried to shake me on cross-examination, but I'd been on the witness stand too many times to be rattled. Mrs. Lawson, isn't it true that you're just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see your son happy with someone new? I looked him dead in the eye. I want nothing more than to see my son happy, but there's nothing happy about what Brielle is doing to him. She's destroying him from the inside out. Judge Freeman called for a recess. We waited in the hallway for what felt like hours. Javon sat beside me, his leg bouncing nervously. "What do you think she'll decide, Grandma?" "I think she'll do what's right." When we were called back in, Judge Freeman looked at all of us with those sharp eyes of hers. "I've reviewed all the evidence and heard all the testimony, and I'm going to be very clear about something. This is one of the most disturbing cases I've seen in my 20 years on the bench." Brielle sat up straighter, like she thought the judge was talking about me. "Mrs. Brielle Lawson, you have shown a pattern of deception, manipulation, and violence. The evidence against you is overwhelming. The threatening text messages alone are enough to warrant serious concern. But combined with Javon's testimony, the police report, and your inability to answer basic questions about a child you claim to love, it paints a very clear picture." Brielle's face went white. "I am granting Mrs. Monique Lawson full temporary custody of Javon Lawson, effective immediately. Mr. Darius Lawson will have supervised visitation rights, but only if Mrs. Brielle Lawson is not present. Furthermore, I am issuing a restraining order prohibiting Mrs. Brielle Lawson from having any contact with Javon. She is to remain at least 500 feet away from him at all times." The gavel came down. It was over. Javon threw his arms around me and burst into tears. But these weren't tears of fear or pain. They were tears of relief. "Thank you, Grandma, thank you." I held him tight, my own tears finally falling. "You never have to thank me, baby. Protecting you is what I was put on this earth to do." Across the room, Darius stood up. He looked shell-shocked. For the first time, I saw a crack in the facade Brielle had built around him. He looked at Javon, then at me, and I saw something in his eyes. Doubt, confusion, the beginning of awakening. Brielle grabbed his arm and hissed something in his ear, but he shrugged her off, walked toward us. "Ma," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I looked at Patricia. She nodded. "I'll take Javon to get something to eat. Give you two some privacy." Once they were gone, Darius and I stood in that empty hallway facing each other. This was the first real conversation we'd had in 5 years. "I don't know what to say," he started. "How about the truth? How about you tell me how things got this bad?" He ran a hand over his face. He looked exhausted. "I don't know, Ma. After Ayanna died, I was so lost, and Brielle was just there. She made me feel like I could breathe again, like life didn't have to be so hard." "So you let her convince you to cut me out?" "She said you were trying to control my life, that you didn't want me to move on." "Did you ever stop to think that maybe she was the one trying to control you?" He was quiet for a long moment. "The judge said those things about Brielle, about her past, about the other husbands. Is that all true?" "Every word. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened?" He had no answer for that. "Darius, I'm not going to stand here and say I told you so, but I am going to tell you this. You need to wake up. That woman is dangerous. She hurt your son. She threatened your son. And if the judge is right about her pattern, you might be next." "She wouldn't. Wouldn't she? Her first husband died in a fire. Her second husband took out a restraining order. Wake up, baby, before it's too late. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. What do I do, Ma? You get yourself a good lawyer. You get her out of your house and out of your life. And then you work on fixing your relationship with your son. Because right now, Javon is terrified of you. Not because of you, but because you chose her over him. I never meant to. I know you didn't mean to. But intention doesn't change reality. You have a choice to make now, her or your family. You can't have both. He nodded slowly, wiping his eyes. I'm sorry, Ma, for everything. For pushing you away, for not believing Javon. For being such a fool. I don't need your apology. Javon does. Can I see him? Please? I thought about it. About the fear in Javon's eyes. About the trauma he'd endured. But I also thought about the fact that despite everything, he still loved his father. Not today, he needs time. But if you do what I told you, if you get Brielle out of your life, then maybe we can start to rebuild. Okay, I'll do it, I promise. I wanted to believe him, but I'd seen too many broken promises to trust words alone. I needed to see action. Good. Now go home and think about what kind of man you want to be. Because the man you've been for the last 5 years, that's not the son I raised. He flinched like I'd slapped him, but he needed to hear it. I watched him walk away, his shoulders slumped, his steps heavy. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Just a little flicker of it, but it was there. The next few weeks were an adjustment. Javon moved into my house permanently. We enrolled him in a new school closer to my neighborhood, a good school with a strong support system. I made sure he started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma. It helps, he told me after his 3rd session, talking about it. Dr. Williams says it's okay to be angry at Dad, that it doesn't mean I don't love him. Dr. Williams is right. You can love someone and still be hurt by their actions. Those two things can exist at the same time. Life started to develop a rhythm. Javon did his homework at the kitchen table while I made dinner. We'd watch movies together on Friday nights. He'd help me with the garden on weekends. Slowly. The scared boy from the police station was transforming into a confident young man, but Brielle wasn't done yet. She started calling from blocked numbers, leaving threatening voicemails. You think you won? You haven't won anything. I'm going to destroy you and that little brat, you'll see. I reported every call to the police. Each one was a violation of the restraining order. Then she showed up at Javon's school. The principal called me immediately. Mrs. Lawson, a woman claiming to be Javon's stepmother, is here demanding to see him. We've refused, but she's causing a scene. Don't let her near him. I'm calling the police. By the time I got there, Brielle was in handcuffs being escorted to a police car. She screamed at me as they put her in the back seat. This is your fault. You ruined everything. I'll make you pay. You'll make me pay. I walked up to the car window. Baby, you're the one in handcuffs. You're the one who violated a restraining order. You're the one who's going to jail. I'm just the grandmother who protected her grandson. We are not the same. She lunged at the window, but the officers pulled her back. That violation of the restraining order earned her 6 months in jail. And while she was locked up, something miraculous happened. Darius filed for divorce. He called me when he made the decision. Ma, I need you to know, I'm leaving her. You were right about everything. I found things in our house after she got arrested. Documents, bank statements. She'd been draining my accounts for years, moving money to offshore accounts in her name. She was planning to leave me once she got everything. I didn't say I told you so. I just said, I'm proud of you for doing the right thing. I want to see Javon. I want to apologize to him. Will you let me? That's not my decision to make. It's his. So I asked Javon, sat him down at the kitchen table, and told him his father wanted to see him. Does he have to? Javon asked, fear creeping back into his voice. No, baby, you never have to see anyone you don't want to see. But your daddy's made some changes. He's divorcing Brielle. He wants to make things right with you, but only if you're ready. Javon thought about it for a long time. Will you be there? Every second. Okay, I'll see him. The meeting was at my house. Neutral territory. Patricia was there too, just in case we needed a witness to anything. When Darius walked in, Javon tensed up, but he didn't run. He just sat there, waiting. Darius sat down across from him, his hands clasped together. He looked older than his 42 years, tired, broken. Javon, I don't know where to start. I'm sorry doesn't feel like enough, but I am sorry. I failed you in every way a father can fail his son. I should have protected you. I should have believed you. Instead, I let that woman convince me that you were the problem, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. Javon's jaw clenched. You let her hurt me. I know. You chose her over me. I know. You abandoned Grandma, the one person who's always been there for us. I know. Darius's voice broke. I know all of that, son, and I can't take any of it back. All I can do is promise you that it will never happen again. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to understand how I let things get so bad. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. Not yet. I have to earn that. And I will. However long it takes, I'll prove to you that I can be the father you deserve. There was a long silence. Then Javon spoke, his voice trembling. I used to dream about you saving me. When Brielle would lock me in my room, I'd close my eyes and imagine you bursting through the door like a superhero, like you finally saw the truth and came to rescue me, but you never did. Darius was openly crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Stop saying you're sorry, Javon shouted, tears streaming down his face. Sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't erase the bruises or the nights I cried myself to sleep or the fact that I was terrified in my own house. I know it doesn't. You're right. But I don't know what else to say. Then don't say anything. Just be better. Be the dad you used to be before her. That's all I want. Darius nodded, wiping his eyes. I can do that. I will do that. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start. Over the next few months, Darius proved himself. He showed up to Javon's basketball games. He came to school events. He took him out for dinner once a week, always with my permission, always returning him on time. Slowly, trust was being rebuilt. Brielle, meanwhile, got out of jail after 6 months and disappeared. Heard she moved back to Florida. Didn't matter to me where she went, as long as it was far away from my family. The divorce was finalized. Darius got to keep most of his assets because Patricia helped prove that Brielle had been committing fraud. She left with nothing but her suitcase and her bitterness. And then, one Sunday afternoon, Darius showed up at my house with flowers. Ma, can we talk? We sat on the porch, same place we used to sit when he was young and had problems he needed to work through. I owe you more than an apology, he said. I owe you my life, my son's life. If you hadn't fought for us, if you hadn't stood up to Brielle, I don't know where we'd be right now. Probably broke, definitely broken. You're my son, Darius. Fighting for you is what I do. I know. And I took that for granted. I took you for granted. But I won't anymore. I want you back in my life, Ma. Not because I need something, but because I love you. Because you're my mother, and I've missed you every single day for the past 5 years. I reached over and took his hand. I've missed you too, baby. More than you know. Can you forgive me? I already have. The question is, can you forgive yourself? He thought about that. I'm working on it. That's all I can ask. We sat there in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the neighborhood, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, wholeness. Like the broken pieces of my family were finally being put back together. It wasn't perfect. We still had hard days. Javon still had nightmares sometimes. Darius still struggled with guilt. And I still got angry when I thought about all the time we'd lost. But we were healing. Together. A year later, we celebrated Javon's 15th birthday with a big party at my house. All his friends came. Darius was there with his new girlfriend, a kind woman named Candace, who treated Javon with genuine affection. Patricia came with her wife. Even Terrence stopped by to say hello. I stood in my kitchen watching everyone laugh and talk and enjoy themselves, and I thought about that night at the police station. The night everything changed. The night I decided I wasn't going to let Brielle destroy my family. Penny for your thoughts, Grandma. I turned to find Javon standing beside me, taller now, his voice deeper, that scar above his eyebrow the only visible reminder of that terrible night. Just thinking about how far we've come. We wouldn't have come anywhere without you. You know that, right? Oh, baby, that's not true. You're strong. You would have survived. Surviving isn't the same as living. You taught me that. You taught me that I deserved better, that I didn't have to accept being treated like that. You saved my life, Grandma. I pulled him into a hug. And you saved mine. You gave me a reason to dust off that old detective badge. You reminded me who I was. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea. Darius came out and sat beside me. Thank you, Ma, for everything. For not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself. That's what mothers do, baby. We never give up on our children. No matter how lost they get, we keep the light on so they can find their way home. I'm home now. I know you are. We sat there together, father and son reunited, grandmother and grandson safe. A family rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal and manipulation. And in that moment, I understood something profound. Brielle thought she could break us. She thought she was smarter, more cunning, more powerful. But she underestimated the one thing she never had and never would have. Love. Real, unconditional, fight-to-the-death love. That's the thing about family. Real family, not the fake version Brielle tried to create. Real family fights for each other, protects each other, never gives up on each other. I'd spent 35 years solving crimes, catching criminals, putting bad people away. But the most important case I ever worked was the one involving my own family, and I'd won. Not because I was a detective, not because I had connections or experience, but because I was a grandmother who loved her grandson more than anything in this world. And that love was stronger than any lie Brielle could tell, any manipulation she could attempt, any threat she could make. That love was invincible. And as I sat there on my porch, with my son beside me and my grandson safe inside, I finally understood what true wealth looked like. It wasn't money or property or status. It was this. It was moments like these. It was family. And that was something Brielle could never take away. Javon graduated high school with honors 3 years later. Got accepted to the University of Maryland to study criminal justice. Said he wanted to be a detective just like his grandma, wanted to help families like ours, wanted to fight for kids who nobody believed. The day I watched him walk across that stage to get his diploma, I thought about that scared 13-year-old boy in the police station with blood running down his face, and I thought about the strong, confident young man he'd become. Darius was sitting beside me in the auditorium, both of us crying as we watched our boy achieve his dreams. "Mom," he whispered, "thank you for never giving up on us." "Never will, baby. Never will." And I meant it, because that's what love does. It fights. It perseveres. It wins. Every single time. If this story moved you, don't leave without letting us know. Your likes, your comments, and your subscription aren't just buttons. They're the heartbeat of this community. They help these stories reach someone who might need them today. Thank you for walking this journey with us. Until the next one, stay strong, stay safe, and stay connected.